Well, welcome everybody. My name is Doug Welsh. Um, I'm going to talk a little bit about my practice generally and then the work for this exhibition specifically. But I also wanted to thank Art League for inviting me to present my work here, and especially a big thanks to Zyra. It's been amazing to collaborate with you on this show and to bounce ideas around. It's just been really generative and fun. So thank you, Zyra. And also for the opportunity to show with Marley and Chris and Karis. I'm just super grateful. So thank you. Okay. Also, a huge thank you to there's some musicians who are involved in the work for this show. So each painting has a song associated with it, and two of the pieces in this show are very special to me because they are collaborations with my partner Mitch Pengra on the piano, Alex Vensky, beautiful vocals, Taylor Marbury on guitar, and Jenny Marshall, who actually wrote the song for that tiny little painting at the end of the hall. So thank you to all of you as well. Okay, so my practice is called Life Raft, and it started about 3 years ago. I have bipolar, and there's a lot of kind of ups and downs and high energy and low energy, and at a particularly disorienting point in my life where I was kind of like right up against the edge of my sanity, um, I kind of figured out, I had this revelation that like art is very much tied to my well-being, and so I wanted to build something that I could, that could last my lifetime, basically. So I came up with the idea of this vision of a life raft that's kind of moving out into space. And the particular way that um, I find that sense of grounding and harmony is by painting, and painting specifically while listening to a single song on loop. Um, so I think of it as kind of like patching and painting my little raft as I move out into the world. Um, so there is a song that I loop for the duration of the painting. It's a ritual, it's like a rite, it's something that I find really grounding and meditative, offers me a lot of stability and harmony. Um, and so, yeah, Life Raft, it's just kind of the thing that keeps me afloat as I move through life. And so for this series of paintings, I was thinking about um, paintings that over the last 3 years I had thought were finished at one point or another, and came to realize that they actually were not finished, they were not successful, and I wanted to kind of use this opportunity to go back into them and re-enter, re-resolve them. And part of that was rewriting the ritual of making. So this show actually offered me a lot of opportunity to kind of change the way that I operate in the studio and the way that I make, to ask a lot more questions in the work, and to kind of find new ways through and around um, the paintings to kind of get them to their eventual resolution, which was a really awesome experience. And I feel like um, there are elements of the paintings that go back to where they were a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, but they are fully transformed. And I think I'm asking questions about like color and line layering, um, you know, combining like house paint, spray paint, um, and actually one of the first things I did with this work was when I wanted to kind of re-enter the paintings, I laid them all out in my studio, and I kind of carefully placed all of this like detritus from just things that I had collected, flowers that Mitch had given me that were dried, rocks, things that I'd found on walks, things like that, and just kind of put them all over the paintings and kind of spray painted through everything to kind of disrupt them and to afford new opportunities to kind of find new relationships within the paintings. So that was kind of like my entry point in, but then, um, you know, ultimately seeking a sense of, I guess, I want them to be beautiful, and I want them to be to have a sense of like harmony and balance, because that's really the thing that I'm seeking within myself. Um, and so I get there through painting. Um, I mentioned two paintings that are particularly special to me. There are, so the small one at the beginning, the red one, and this one at the end. Those were created um, with, so Mitch, Alex, Taylor, Jenny. They, you know, created, like they basically played music, and I recorded it and then looped it and then painted to those songs. So yeah, so I wanted to mention that. And one other thing to mention too is at the closing of the show on February 10th, those four musicians are going to come back and do a concert here to play definitely those two songs and anything else that you'll want to play. So I invite you all to come back for the closing on February 10th. Thank you very much. And if anyone has any questions, yes, Laura?
You said that these were originally done and then you put them down for a few years. Do you see these as done now, or do you think that like in a few years you could be like, oh, I come to another place? Would you be open to revisiting the work again?
Good question. I think of these as done and complete. There were some additional paintings that I was reworking that didn't make it to this stage. So like those, I think I would definitely consider re-entering later. But yeah, I'm thinking about like, so many artists have destroyed their work throughout their lives, and John Baldessari, burned his work and put it in a book. Like I didn't want to fully destroy it. I wanted to kind of transform the older unsuccessful pieces. Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so I had a question. So I know in the past you've used songs that are like already in existence, like in the radio or like different albums that might have inspired you on loop based on maybe your emotion. So what did it feel like in contrast to paint something based on someone else's emotions if they're like musicians and artists themselves and they're making music and you're responding to it in that way? Like how did that feel?
Yeah, it was kind of a dream come true, honestly, because like all of the songs here and all the songs that I've painted to slash with, like they pull out these emotions in me. And like hearing Mitch play the piano or Alex sing in the choir, like just brings me to tears. Like it's a very emotional thing, and um,
Did
so
it
it was
feel like
really
you were
special.
working backwards or does
What
it feel like you were working like backwards in a sense? Like starting from a different point of emotion or was it kind of the
um,
same process?
I think it was similar. It just was more felt because I know these people and I love these people. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Gemma.
Is it the music that influences the colors and the shapes in your work, or do you have an idea already and then you kind of find a song to match that? And
Sometimes the song really does direct the color relationships in my work. And there was a point where I really thought I was translating music into paintings, and I don't think that anymore. Like I think it's really the ritual of listening to the same thing over and over and over again for days, weeks, a month. Like it's just really meditative, and I can almost kind of, I'm aware of it and not aware of it at the same time, um, and so I think what's happening is the the paintings, like when I'm in that state of mind, I'm like kind of relaxed and just in my space. Then I have a relationship with the painting, and the painting kind of tells me what it needs. But um, yeah, but I have to get in that mindset, which is where the music comes in. Yeah.
I just want to say, I feel like I could tell just by looking at you put a lot of attention and love into these pieces. So I think like that draws me to them like immediately. And my question was, um, I feel like there's like a ebb and flow between like improvisational or automatic sorts of, or maybe even reactionary sorts of process or decision making with these uh, versus like the more complex design
Mm-hmm.
Could you expand on that if that resonates at all, that question?
That definitely resonates. I kind of fluctuate between those two modes or mindsets. Like there are times where a painting is just not working and I have to disrupt it somehow, and that often is something that's a lot more improvisational or intuitive. Um, it could be, spray painting through layers of objects on a piece. It could be sanding into a piece. I often come back in with a sander, pouring, all these things to kind of disrupt the thing that is blocking me from seeing it. And then I can go back in and, take a lot more care and really think through compositional elements, line, shape, color, texture, like all that stuff. Yeah. So it's both. Yes.
What does it feel like to make the first move into a painting that you're revisiting?
Oh, that I'm revisiting. Yeah, it's kind of, there's a lot of like kind of grief almost, or sorrow, like pain really, like that I'm kind of saying, like letting go of a thing. And so I have to kind of get through that. But then there's just kind of abundance and possibility, um, and that kind of initial disruption. It's like, okay, now the first scratch is on the car. Like I can mess it up however I want now. Yeah.
Can you talk about shape finding?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, sometimes the shape kind of reveals itself through the process of making the painting. Um, I, uh, in some cases, I've been kind of I've been really an abstract painter for the last 10 or so years, and like I haven't really touched representational imagery at all, but it's starting to trickle into my work. There's references to hands in both of those two paintings, and a lot of them are kind of talking about my gender relationship, and also my relationship with you. And you're a big influence on that as well, Mitch. So, yeah.
Chris has a question over there.
Oh, yeah.
I see lots of veils, atmospheres, and barriers. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. When I first started this body of work, it was like really flat planes of shapes and colors butting up against each other. And there was like no room or depth. It was totally flat. And slowly over the last 3 years, I've been um, craving or wanting or letting the paintings have a little bit more space or room. Um, so thinking more about depth, thinking about layering things. Yeah.
And then I have a question, but I'd like to mention first that there's a QR code in both the exhibition statement and the checklist. So if you want to be able to listen to the songs that inspired these pieces, you're allowed to join on that journey. But also, I know originally in your practice, you had tended to work on one piece at a time. And with this body, you started kind of working with them communally. So, can you talk a little bit about that choice and that process?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, up until this point, I was working on one painting, looping one song, and just really working through it until it's done, then put that aside, do the next one. Something about wanting to revisit all of these paintings that were previously I had thought were finished, then were unfinished. Like I really did want to start with them, kind of all getting disrupted in the same way, and then I was also thinking about like I made basically a playlist of all the songs that were in this group of pieces, and then would like paint this painting with that song, and then when I like either thought it was right or I like hit a wall with it, I would put it aside and then press shuffle, totally random, and pick the next one, and then go in. And so there was kind of like more choreography and movement and kind of dance almost within my studio, which was really fun. And actually, it's how this relationship happened. Like I had work in a tiny little studio in my house, and all these paintings were on the wall, and they were kind of, as I was moving around, working on them kind of simultaneously, they started to kind of migrate together, and like these two became friends, and I was seeing relationships between them in terms of color, but also shape. And so I wanted them a little bit closer together on the wall. Similarly, the two hands, like that kind of happened in the studio too, partly by accident, but one kind of started to go lower, one went a little bit higher, and so I wanted to include that in the presentation as well.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you so much, Doug.
Thank you so much, everybody.